Good morning, everyone. Today is the last session of instructor workshop training. I will be starting with the certification presentation that we missed out on yesterday because we were running over. Is there someone else that can admit people into the room besides me?
I'll do it for you.
Thank you. Okay, can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, all right. AARP Tax Aid Certification. I apologize if this presentation has lost its formatting. I know when I tried to show it yesterday for myself, it was like the formatting was just weird. So requirements, certification requirements for tax counselors and EROs. You must take LMS training and tests. They're at the portal, of course. Source Security Essentials, Technology and Security, Tax Aid Policy, and Procedures. And I guess Sue also reported yesterday that we need to take the reimbursement one as well if we are leaders. We also need to do training and taking our tests through Pub 6744, which is at lincolnlearncertification.com. We need to take the Volunteer Standards of Conduct test, the Intake Interview and Quality Review test, and the Advanced test. And by the way, we need to do a training on Volunteer Standards of Conduct and Intake Interview and Quality Review. So we are going to get the Intake Interview and Quality Review today for ourselves, but you need to pass it on to other volunteers. The Volunteer Standards of Conduct training presentation is at the shared drive. Just look for it. If you can't find it, email me and I'll send it to you. You may also take the Qualified Experienced Volunteer test that is in 6744, but it's just good practice. It doesn't count for anything. You must pass all of your tests at a minimum of 80%. You can only take them twice, test and retest. So if you fail the first test, you should probably take it the second time on paper. Other requirements for certification. This is for all counselors, instructors, quality reviewers, and EROs. In addition to passing the advanced tax law test, you may take military or international training and pass the designated tests as well. You must also satisfactorily complete at least 4 practice exercises. 8 is recommended. And include one with all the way through the state return. If anybody needs a workbook scenario modified, let me know and I'll do it for you because I do it for my own district. DCs and LCs who are not also counselors do not need the advanced test. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Requirements for client facilitators. LMS training and or tests that are on the portal. There's no tests out there this year. It's just training. Security Essentials, Tech and Security, Tax Aid Policy and Procedures. They also need training and to use Pub 6744 or Lincoln Learn certification for their 2 tests. The Volunteer Standards of Conduct and the Intake Interview and Quality Review. They must use a computer if they have access to a computer. I think that's a new rule this year, but I didn't create it. They must sign the IRS Volunteer Agreement, Form 13615. Requirements for non-preparers like a TC, an appointment scheduler, etc. LMS training and tests, they're there. I don't need to read them for you again. Other requirements for certification. Administrators at the tax aid sites that use session management must take the LMS course Session Management, which is on the portal. All right, this is what it looks like when you're doing your test. It's just a flow chart. I complete my test, Patrick and I certify each other, and then it goes from there. All volunteers complete tests in LMS. They get certified by instructors. The instructors notify the DC notifies Joe. Joe updates the portal. Joe notifies the national office, and the national office notifies Patrick. When and how to report. 1 instructor certification and LMS findings must be sent to me before your district trainings begin. Hopefully, and I'll let you know as soon as it comes up out at online. All volunteers' certifications and LMS findings must be reported to Joe by January 24th. So report the data to Joe as a group and then send straggler information ASAP. January 24th, that's the deadline. I'm not going to read all this for you. Basically, it just says that 1 instructor should be reporting their information back to me, and then that instructor, after doing all the testing and the courses and getting certified, can then certify everybody else in their district. DCs need to report to Joe. Here's the reporting information. Please send it to my email address or my snail mail address. If you're submitting certification listings to Joe, it's to his email. Any questions out there, Frank?
Okay, I have a question from Diane W. Please walk us through getting to the shared drive.
You know what? Can you save that question? Here's what I've done is I've created an evaluation on Google Forms that I'm going to ask you to fill out as you're leaving today. And the last question is, how else can I help you? And so I'm asking you to put those kinds of things, walking you through the shared drive there. And then I'm going to set up some mini trainings along the way. And I will do that, I'll send out when the mini trainings are and what they are, and we can record them so that if somebody else needs help with the same issue and can't attend the training, we'll do it that way. Will that suffice for you, Diane? Am I getting a response?
Okay, I didn't hear anything.
Okay. Because I think there are other people out there too that need things like, where's the shared drive? I can't get there. I can't figure it out.
Diane did respond that yes, that is acceptable.
Okay, thank you. Because I just don't have time to do that today as much as I would like to be able to do that today. Okay.
And I have a comment from Sue.
Uh-huh.
And her comment is, LCs must take LMS LC course and site coordinator test on Lincoln Learn before they can be certified.
Okay. I thought I had that in there, but it's different this year than last year. There was a test for LCs on LMS and in 6744, and this year the training is on the LMS, but the test is in 6744. Got it. Thanks, Sue. Okay, I can modify this out there later today.
That's all the questions on your first topic.
All right, thank you. All right, coming out of there. Coming back. Okay, next topic. Next topic is intake, interview, and quality review. This is a topic I wish I didn't have to share. But until we get better at screening, interviewing, quality review, it's going to be a topic that keeps coming back every year and every year. So it's kind of like, when are we going to make the changes that we need to make to do a better interview and better quality review? That's the bottom line. All right, why do we do intake, interview, screening? We need to put the taxpayer at ease, build rapport, ask open-ended questions, get them on the same team with us. And in fact, one of the things that we actually need to do when we're starting to engage the taxpayer is it's just asking, is it okay if I ask you questions? That demonstrates that we respect the information that they're going to be giving us and respect them too. We need to speak clearly, giving the taxpayer time, recognize their privacy, asking that permission that I already mentioned. We need to explain the whole intake process, the whole process from beginning to end, all the way down through the signature at the very end. We need to ask questions. We need to determine if the return is in scope. We need to make a copy printed for the taxpayer after the review, before the signature. The taxpayer then reviews the return for accuracy and completeness themselves, getting those signatures, explaining that the taxpayer is responsible for their return. Whenever possible, do an e-file. Taxpayer keeps all the documents, everything. We don't keep anything. We need to confirm their identity. Photo IDs are always good. If we know them and they're coming back year after year after year, then, maybe a one-time photo ID would be acceptable instead of by 2 or 3 different people. We can also use their Social Security information, their address, compare that with their ID. If there's any exceptions, the LC will approve them. We need to do a full screening and interview prior to going to the computer for starting the return. Discuss those consent pages with the taxpayer. I'm still surprised that, I've listened to other volunteers discussing those pages with the taxpayers, and it was like, hello, do you really understand what you're saying to them? And I don't, that's hard for me to listen to that. And then, of course, I try to talk to the volunteer later about it. We need to sort the taxpayer's documents. This sorting list here is the same as the numbered lines on the 1040. Your particular site may have a different sort order. I know I like to have the Social Security paper right up front. Confirm whatever the needed documents are. Verify the tax year on all of them. Review for scope. The scope manual is right on your Chromebook desktop. The intake booklet is very similar to previous years. There's only a couple of different questions on it on pages 1, 2, and 3. The consent form pages are very similar to prior years. We will be ordering them from the portal. You must be changing all of the unsures to either yes or no, and sometimes you even have to change some yes or no's to the other one. Make notes. You know, there is some blank spaces on the intake booklet. Make notes. Don't be afraid to use those spaces. All right, the counselors complete any of the shaded areas. What are the questions you might ask? Well, they're all written right there for you. Just ask them and then mark them in the shaded areas. Sometimes we do have to ask additional questions even after we've asked the questions that are written there. I think this is last year's paper. Down there where I have the red box, there's actually a question 11 down there, and it says, did you receive the child tax credit? So that, you know, if the taxpayer marks yes, then that leads into a discussion about how much money did you actually get during 2021. Consent number 1 is the global carry forward consent. Remember, taxpayer data carries forward to the site where their return was prepared. If they want it carried forward to anywhere else, then they should give the consent. And then it carries forward to not even all of our sites, but also all the VITA sites as well. The relational offices consent. This is the one where AARP uses the taxpayer data to help us receive grants and to keep our program running. The information that AARP collects is nothing personal. They do not collect Social Security numbers, names, addresses, telephone numbers, only the answers to those other questions that the taxpayer marks. The information sharing consent, AARP Foundation might want to contact them. We call this AARP Foundation's charitable arm, where AARP may then go on to contact the taxpayer to see if they can reduce costs for the taxpayer in any way. Due diligence during your interview process. Ask sufficient and thorough questions to ensure accuracy and completeness of your return. Verify the accuracy of the documents presented. Use good judgment. Ask questions if information appears incorrect. Do not ignore information provided or independently known. A counselor must not knowingly prepare a false return. Consult with your LC if you're concerned. And if you're not comfortable, then don't prepare the return. Either turn the taxpayer away or refer them to a different counselor. Once you've completed the interview, then what? You either prepare the return, or the taxpayer has to leave and come back with missing documents, or refer them to another counselor because maybe it's at the limit of your expertise, or you could advise the taxpayer that the return is out of scope. Talk it over with the local coordinator. Don't make the decision by yourself. All right, any questions on screening and interviewing?
Okay, we have a 2. Trish Grubb, do we have to order consent forms? I can't recall how that worked last year.
We get them at the portal.
Okay, Pat, you're inside the intake package. That's just what I wasn't recalling.
Right, and I'm assuming that they're going to be exactly like they were last year as far as the perforations go. And
We
not,
hope.
excuse me?
We hope so.
Yeah, because anybody that's doing scanning is going to want to be able to rip them apart easily. Okay, so yeah, we don't order intake sheets from the IRS. We get them at the portal. And was there a second question, Frank?
Yes, there is. It was a comment. Ray Groy, she's having trouble she's experiencing poor audio. And that's something that we talked about before the meeting started. It's seems to be a bandwidth problem where you're at, and I know occasionally we're getting into some breakups on the voices.
And I'm not sure that there's anything else that I can do from my end. I mean, I'm not even 20 feet away from my router, so I'm doing the best I can here. Okay. All right, quality review. This is in Pub 40 tab K, 4012 tab K. Accuracy, number one job. The IRS has showed that volunteers who prepare returns using complete intake, interview, and quality review achieve a 98.65 accuracy rate. If you use an incomplete or non-existent intake, interview, quality review, then your accuracy rate is at 77%. Quality review is more than just a proofreading exercise of the numbers. You must review the intake booklet with the taxpayer. You must update the intake booklet if there are changes. You must engage with the taxpayer, asking questions all over again, even if they're the same questions that the interviewer asked. You must evaluate the overall return, because you would want to try to reduce the taxes further for this taxpayer. The methodology for review may differ from site to site, but the rules are the same everywhere. All returns must receive a quality review by a second independent counselor. Quality review must be completed with the taxpayer present. Quality review takes place after the return is prepared, before the return is printed, and before the taxpayer signs the return. There are different methods. Designated reviewer. It's done by a more experienced counselor who is able to resolve more complicated tax issues. Or peer review, where two counselors just switch places, any second independent counselor review. Or self-review, never acceptable, never. What's the benefit of a review for the taxpayer? It can possibly prevent IRS notices or contacts. It can result in calculation of a correct tax, avoiding money payback, paying money back with interest and penalty. It can help the taxpayer receive all credits and deductions they're entitled to, and increase the confidence in our service. What are the consequences of a poor review? Well, if you get a notice from the IRS, it's stressful. I don't know about you, but I don't like when I get them. Maybe the taxpayer has a hardship paying money back. It brings interest and penalties, and sometimes they're very stiff. And maybe there's missed eligible credits or deductions. What are the benefits for the counselor? It reduces anxiety on the part of the preparer, knowing that another counselor has your back. Getting feedback helps to improve skills, builds confidence, raises morale, and it fosters teamwork. And that's a good thing. We're all on the same team. Benefits for the site: it reduces e-file reject rates. It ensures compliance with the quality site requirements, increases productivity, gives taxpayers more confidence in our ability to help prepare complete and accurate returns. Where can you go to find more information on quality review? The gold standards for quality review, it's at the portal. If you type in gold, you can find it. Or you can go to the 4012 tab K. Quality reviewer, what's that process look like? The reviewer must verify all issues on the return are within scope, but that both the preparer and the reviewer are certified, and that all entries in the intake booklet were completed and marked yes or no. You must involve the taxpayers, do a thorough review of the intake booklet. I know at our sites we often use a different colored pen. The preparer and the reviewer will use a different colored pen on the intake booklet. So now we have a clearer record of the information that was gathered each time. The reviewer must do a careful review of the return, making all errors and deficiencies corrected, and compare with last year's return, because that's always a good place to go if you're having questions about the current return. Involve the taxpayer. Ask those questions. Ask them especially if they have any other income. Ask the taxpayer if they have any questions. Make sure the taxpayer understands that they're responsible for the accuracy of the return. Review the intake booklet again. Review preparer notes, changes, other information. Confirm what is the most advantageous and correct filing status. Check for those dependents, that whether they're qualifying children or qualifying relatives. And make sure that gray section is answered and any other questions are noted. Part 3 on the income. The tax documents must match the appropriate checked boxes. All unsure or unmarked boxes should be changed to yes or no. And all tax documents must be accounted for and entered. Remember to ask, did you have any other income? Sometimes I ask, what other income do you have? Because that implies that there was income that the taxpayer needs to tell you about. Part 4 on the expenses. Only qualifying expenses get to be entered on the return. The deductions, whether you're using standard or itemized. Any other credits that are available. And they're listed down there. The life events. Confirm that all the events that may be affecting the return. Pay attention if there's estimated tax payments, a capital loss carryover, and in those infrequently seen items, be careful, they might be out of scope. If they bring a 1095-A, make sure the information is correctly entered. If there's additional information, note any direct deposit, direct debit, bank account information, and any other notes. You can put notes into a return inside TaxSlayer. These are the different types of notes that you might want to write into there about. Bottom line on quality review, it's more than a proofreading exercise. It ensures an accurate return and it provides the lowest tax for the taxpayer. Right, so what does an actual quality review look like? The methods include reviewing the QR print set, or retracing the preparer's steps, which is just sort of like, after you've done the interview part of a quality review, then you just go back in as though you are preparing the return again and see every last detail page. Or you can go to the summary print page and link to the different input screens. QR should be done on the computer, not on the printed return. It's easier to see if there's incomplete or missing forms. It's easier to update your errors, and it saves paper and ink. I think we all have a favorite method for doing quality review when we actually go into the computer to do it. These are some real life cases where QR saved the day. Just because there is a form doesn't mean you need to use it. Page 1 of Form 1040 reviewed in the QR print set. The reviewer noted that the taxpayer provided the Form 1098MA. Do you know anything about 1098MA? The payments are not taxable, but it's out of scope for us. So I have a dumb question, and Frank, I'm asking this to you or Sue. If it's not taxable, can we do this return or not?
Sue, I'll let you respond to that.
Okay, I was waiting. Yeah, if a form is out of scope, we can't do it. And that probably means there's some caveats that sometimes it's different. But if it's in the AARP scope manual as out of scope, then we can't do it.
Okay, so we would need to go to the scope manual then to look this up at the time that we see the form.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because some forms there's caveats of when you can use them and when you can't.
Right.
But if it's totally out of scope, then you couldn't do it. I'm not familiar with this form, but yes, when you see a form you're not familiar with, you want to open up that scope manual and see what it tells you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Accepting things at face value. This was a situation where page 1 of Form 1040 was being reviewed in the QR print set, and the reviewer noted this, and I'm not even sure what this is. The taxpayer had a 1099 miscellaneous with entry in box 3. The taxpayer worked part-time for a contractor doing construction work. And they did, so it was on 1099 miscellaneous box 3, and the preparer entered it on line 21 of 1040. What other questions should we have asked? We should have asked if this was like a business, I think. If he did other contracting business anywhere. Because ultimately, this probably should have gone to a Schedule C. Taxpayers don't always know all the rules. This taxpayer checked married filings separately, and when I look at this and I see all these dependents down here, there's a good possibility that this probably could have been had a household.
Right.
Why does the quality reviewer do an interview? Here's another situation. Part 2, line 2 of the intake booklet was handed to the quality reviewer. It was a single return claiming no dependent or non-dependent. the brother that was listed there, he wrote the taxpayer wrote that the brother filed his own return. So are there other questions we need to ask on this? Possibly so. This taxpayer ended up getting a large amount of earned income tax credit. This another case, part 3 of the intake booklet was handed to the quality reviewer. The return looked very easy. Single guy, age 28, 1 W-2. What we should have asked maybe? Just one job last year? There were other jobs. You need to report that income too. If there was a W-2, maybe you can get access to it. Taxpayer says it went to his dad's house. Was there other income? And he finally says, yes, there was $1,200. So the QR person says that needs to be reported too. And then he starts to ask about expenses. So here's what the updated intake booklet now looks like. Box 7 gets checked for self-employment income, and they need to get a second W-2, so the file's now on hold. Ask. We need to keep asking. We need to keep digging. Leave no question unanswered. This is part 6 of the intake booklet handed to the quality reviewer. This one, the IRS had sent the taxpayer a letter, was checked yes. The taxpayer received a letter the prior year about claiming her grandchildren as dependents and as qualifying children for EITC and child tax credit. The taxpayer needed help in responding to these IRS inquiries. Got referred to a low-income taxpayer clinic instead of our services. They completed Form 8862 to help them claim certain refundable credits because there had been a disallowance in 2019. Case 7, the taxpayer did not read the fine print. This was on the Part 2, Line 2, where it says, what your status is going to be. Divorced, they didn't write the year. We all know why that's important now, because sometimes alimony is taxable and sometimes it isn't. So they did get the date for that. And corrected the return. Right, you must pass your intake interview quality review test with a score of 80% or better. There is a self-study training found in Pub 5101. It's at Link and Learn. Any questions?
Okay, we have a couple.
Okay.
Let me start from the beginning. Sue mentioned she had a statement on quality review. There's a new IRS publication, 5299. It's a quality review fresher. So that's an informational item. Then Hal Richardson, I believe they were talking about the 1099 that you used an example. He had a question, should this have been a 1099 NEC?
Probably this presentation isn't that new, so yes, the answer for that is yes, it probably should have been an NEC.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Then PJ Money commented, the 1098 MA is for informational purposes only, and I believe only affects a return if they are deducting mortgage interest.
Right.
I see why that would be put. I see why that would put it out of scope. But if they were not, but if they are not, it would be the.
Frank, can I say
Let's see if
something
I
here?
get but if they are not that, yes.
That form, I went and opened up the scope manual. That form is out of scope. It says no, so it doesn't really matter what the purpose is. It's out of scope for us as in the current scope manual.
Okay. Good.
So what if they just didn't show it to us?
That's the answer.
Well, if they didn't show it to us, they're not showing us other documents, so what else didn't they show us?
Right.
Exactly right.
That's right.
I
But
mean,
it is-
I put that away, I don't need
Okay.
it.
Trish just had a comment. She said, "Hell, I think the slides are from a prior year."
They are.
And Steve Cohen had a comment. All this should have been asked by the intake interview. These are examples of training of the volunteer doing a proper review. And that's a good point.
Yeah. Right.
And Trish Grubb, she said, agreed, Stephen, but we have to do backup or less than perfect interviews, for less than perfect
Right. Right.
interviews.
Okay.
And another good comment. Okay.
Okay. All right. And any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, then I'm actually going to give you a 10-minute break now. So let's come back at 10 minutes till 11 at 10:50. And we'll do some breakout rooms. All right, it's 10:50 and I have created the rooms. I haven't opened them yet. I did write a question in the chat bar. It's beside my name where it says Patricia H. The question is, what do you plan to do differently to improve QR in the coming year? So in your rooms, you need to talk about the current effectiveness of your QR process and what you might do to help improve it in the coming year. You will have 10 minutes to do this, and then when you come back into the main room, you will have a spokesperson from your group to share maybe one good idea on with the group, so that we can have, by the end of this, 7 good ideas on how to improve our QR for the coming year. I'm going to open the rooms now. If you forget the question, you can always copy it and then paste it into your chat bar in your little room. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Pat. Sorry about not being on or anything else. I was on earlier at tail end of your thing with the certification.
Oh, I didn't even know that you were on, or I would have asked you to comment. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. I got on while you were in the middle of it. I apologize. My daughter's in the process of having her child, so
Oh, cool.
yeah. So I've been trying to do a lot of different things, and I'm behind the 8 ball and everything. So
I figured you've just been really busy because I haven't seen you in any of the other days either, but
Yeah.
I wasn't specifically looking for you either. So
yeah. Well, I'll tell you the truth. I really forgot about it this week.
that's okay. That's all right. We all have those kinds of weeks.
So
All the presentations are there on the shared drive.
right, I had seen that because, as a matter of fact, I pulled up the one that had somebody speaking. I'm saying, hold it, that's a YouTube. That ain't live, but that was yesterday's that you had posted or whatever. So I had to go find the other email to figure out where I had to be. So
Uh-huh.
anything go on during the state meeting yesterday afternoon at all, or were you on?
I was on, that's probably a question for Frank more than me.
Right. No, I know, but
And
I just,
he's in the room with us right now too.
Yeah.
Or unless maybe he stepped away from his computer.
Maybe.
Everybody's in a
Yeah.
breakout room that's going to end in about 2 minutes.
oh, okay.
And then they're going to
Yeah,
come back in and we're going to work on answering, like getting their ideas on answering this question that I have. And it's in
Right.
presentation mode. Can you see the question?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. What do you plan to do differently?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was down at the municipal authority where I do other sideline work too. So, and I pulled you up there and then I had to leave to go to the bank and then I got home. So then I just reopened again. So, but
So is there anything that you would like to say to the group about certification?
if they have any questions, I can answer them for you.
Okay.
I didn't see no questions other than I think it was Sue had put on there about the LC. And then somebody asked about something else, which was a yes. So,
Right. Right.
you know, but other than that.
Okay.
Yeah, Joe, I'm on. You know, at the state meeting, really nothing went on that would impact you, to my knowledge, Pat.
Okay.
And do you want to at least make a statement saying how you
Say again.
want the process to flow when it comes to certifying volunteers? Just to reiterate things in the state meeting, or even Pat, were you going to have him on this afternoon just to say something?
I'm not, but you know what? I need to go to breakout rooms now.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
After breakout rooms are processed, then we can have a 1 minute talk about some of the
Okay.
other stuff.
If there's any questions. All
Okay,
right.
all right.
thanks.
Everybody's back from breakout rooms now, or should be. And the question was, what do you plan to do differently to improve QR in your district in the coming year? So while you have a spokesperson that's going to share with me, and I'm going to document what you're telling me. And we're going to start with breakout room number 7. Somebody that was in room 7, please summarize what you talked about.
We talked about the fact that you need to do a good, train your volunteers to do a good interview, and that we all do quality review, and you can't live without quality review. It's an absolute requirement.
Okay, thank
And then
you.
we spent the rest of the time talking about the service models.
Oh, okay, all right. All right. Room number 6.
Well, we decided we loved your idea about different colored pens for quality review. There was a comment of a person who does a lot of quality review that what will help is better training on state and local, because that's where he sees a lot of the errors. And we had some questions about how quality review was going to work with same-day drop-off.
Okay, thank you.
Very simple. Oops, sorry.
Room number 5. Somebody report in from room number 5, please.
Forgot to unmute. We talked about our sites normally do peer reviews, and the one discussion is that we're going to reduce the number of tax return that our site coordinator is doing so that he can do all the quality reviews.
Oh, okay. So you're going to change to a dedicated reviewer.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're going to not completely dedicated, but for the most part, he's going to do all of the QRs except for the 1 or 2 returns that he's going to do.
Oh, yeah. And that makes sense. Okay. All right. Thank you. Room number 4. Unmute yourself, please.
Okay, everybody that was in our room was doing a good job on the quality reviews. I know myself, I've stressed it in all the training sessions, how important it is to do the accurate quality review.
Okay.
And so we had some people who had designated reviewers, and then others, such as in all of our sites, we did a peer review. But everybody's been doing a good job. Usually if we had an error, it was on the EIN numbers, usually just 2 numbers transposed. And sometimes that wasn't caught on the quality reviews. Sometimes it's just not printed very clearly on the 1099 form or the W-2 form. And I know we had one at one of our sites a couple of years ago, and there were 4 or 5 of us working there at that site, and we all looked at it, and everybody came up with a different number for a couple of those numbers. But I did find a site where you could look up the EIN numbers, and Pat, if it's okay, once I know I have that site bookmarked someplace, and I'll go back in and take a look for it, and I will send that on to you, and then you could send it on to everybody else.
Well, that'll be fine. I can actually put that out at the shared drive.
Okay.
Okay. I just wanted to add one other thing that I thought of as you were speaking just now. Is like, I know personally that more mistakes are made in the afternoons when we worked, starting at 9 o'clock in the morning. By after lunch, we start making more mistakes. I'm sure it's because we're tired. And so because of that, we know that we have to try to pay better attention to what's going on in the afternoon returns that we're working on, whether it's preparation or whether it's review, because we make more mistakes in the afternoon. So I'm just going to pass that on to others because it's probably going on at other sites as well.
Yeah, I really haven't found that out to be a problem. Okay. I know we had a couple of our people that were, because of health problems or eye problems, their eyes get tired.
Right.
And it's gotten to the point where they just have to leave earlier in the day.
Right. I hear you. I hear you on that. Okay, room number 3. Unmute yourself, please.
This is Ray. We had a couple good ideas. One person said that they use their most experienced and senior counselors to do the quality reviews. And in terms of improvements from year to year, not all of us were real good at the Google Meet phone calls. So I think we'll be improving the reviewer to taxpayer communications in the coming year just by virtue of going to a different model.
Okay. Room number 2, unmute yourself, please.
Yes, this is David. We discussed how we do our quality reviews and intakes, a little bit different from each site, as each site has their own way of doing it. But we thought maybe if we all standardize using like a red pen to check each line item with the taxpayer's consent to mark on their documents. That way it helps the quality reviewer to pick up things that they might have missed, or saves time, especially like on a 1099B where you're looking for the, IN number or something. It might be in different places on the page depending on the document from the 1099B. So I think that will help us better to just pick up things and go quick.
And room number 1? Unmute yourself.
I think actually, Rick, we were in room number 1. You were in room number 1, and you actually spoke for us already in terms of the EIN number website.
Oh, so did somebody in room number 3 get to speak? If not, unmute yourself and speak now.
This is Ray. This is Ray, and I was in room 3 and I spoke.
Okay. All right. So, okay. All right. I'm not sure what happened, whether we're missing a room. If there's a room that didn't get to speak yet, please speak now. Okay. One other item of interest that I'm going to pass on to you is, like, I know last year, in order to try to improve my interview intake and quality review techniques personally, I used the workbook, and if there were lists of information about the taxpayer's situation, I actually took the time to scribble on the intake sheets that were in there so that I was practicing documenting information on the intake sheet. And I think that probably did help me when I went to the site and I was preparing returns there. So that's something else you can do during training, is insist that your counselors are making documentation on the intake interview sheets. All right. Any other questions or comments about intake interview or quality review?
Just one quick thing. One of the things that we do on our intake forms is we always write the municipality or confirm the municipality and school district, so that if we do the local forms, that the information has been confirmed on the intake sheet.
That's probably a good idea, because there's, like, we used those other forms last year because of COVID, and we had that information there. But in a non-COVID year, you're right, we almost do need a place to put those on the intake forms. Thank you. Okay, I am going to stop sharing. Joe has joined us. Joe, do you have any comments that you want to make to the group about sending you the certification information?
No, other than the fact that I will go ahead and send out the spreadsheet like I usually do every year, and then we'll go from there and follow up with emails.
Okay, sounds good.
And I'll answer any questions anybody may have, or we can wait until the state meeting.
Joe, I have one question.
Yeah, I know. I have a bunch of emails on you, and I have a bunch for other people. I've been hectic in a lot of my lifestyle as of late, and I'm going to try and get all caught up over the next week.
Okay, thank you.
I do apologize to everybody. Anybody else?
Yes, Joe, I'm sorry, I had muted myself. When we send you the certification, do you also want the information where people are going to be volunteering, or do you want that in a separate communication?
Either or. I'll have the spreadsheet like I normally send out. It's usually 2 tabs. One tab will be for the certification, with the yeses and everything for each of the volunteers, and then the other will be what I currently have for the people for their current assignments. And if you have any changes, either you can send it to me via email or change it right on that spreadsheet or whatever. Or you can add it as a remark, and I will make sure they get all their proper assignments.
Thank you.
And Joe, Joe, I have one comment in the chat room. It said, Joe, please address the emails I sent you in September on site names. That's from Steve Cohen.
Yeah,
And
that's.
I think you also,
first
okay.
time.
I think you also have something from Hal to address too.
From who?
Are you on, Hal? I'll get that information and get it to you. Sal Richardson, he's here right now.
Why did you need to know, Frank?
Did you send me no, it was Gary, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Gary had some items on that he had sent you that needed addressed.
Right. I have several from several different districts. I know Steve was one. Trish, I got yours. I saw yours there, and I also know I had something from Gary. Like I said, I was behind the curveball on everything. I'm going to try and address all those emails this week. Usually I address something within a day or two, but I've been hectic with my lifestyle at the moment, so.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
That's all.
Thanks, Joe. The next presentation is on TaxSlayer updates, and I think it might allow for some question and answers on it also. What we know at this time is that the 2021 practice lab is up and available. I have not personally seen any changes in there from previous years, so I don't know what to tell you about taking your test, except be careful. I'm sure that the updates will be coming over time. We do know some things about TaxSlayer right now, and this presentation is a work in progress in a lot of ways because they keep sending me information about the changes, and so every time they send me more information, I just add another slide in here. And so I'm expecting there's probably going to be more to come for sure. As far as the 2021 tax law changes, you must be able to explain any differences between 2020 and 2021 to your taxpayers. Law changes, withholding changes, taxpayer situation changes. This is not different from last year, except that the years have changed. What are the TaxSlayer enhancements? They have that customer portal. Frank talked all about that yesterday. If you want any other information on it, you can visit this website and get it yourself. I'm not even going to go over this. Frank did a sufficient job on this yesterday for the district coordinators. The biggest thing that you need to know is that it is not available in the practice lab or for other tax returns before 2021. And we are not allowed to go into the production lab to create dummy returns just to try to figure out how the customer portal works. We are not expecting very many taxpayers to even take advantage of it because most of our taxpayers don't have the expertise of computer skills to be able to use something like that. Nor do they have the desire. I guess in my head I'm thinking like, if a client really has that much computer skills, they're probably tech savvy enough that they can go out and do their own return without our assistance. So what are the TaxSlayer enhancements then that you might see? On the basic information page, it now allows for the input of the email addresses. I think this was near the end when you got into the e-filing pages before, and it still might be there. What does the e-file page look like now? While it's horizontal instead of vertical in its layout, this is what it'll look like when you first get there. Each section, each one of these check marks across the page that you can see has a different section for it. And every time you're clicking on continue, you're saving. You can get access to the return menu, which will allow you to have a more efficient quality review process. Because from that e-file page, you can go back into any other part of the return and see it. You will be able to add notes from anywhere inside of the e-file section. You have the ability to select the ERO if it's different than the login values. You have the ability to see the refund monitor on the right-hand side, which again is maybe more efficient for the quality review process. This particular piece helps to reduce the number of state returns being marked as a paper return. I am not sure about that because we almost never have any paper returns for this state. The fees tab can be bypassed, which is not a tab that we use. The PA driver's license number is still optional. The consent pages are there. And I'm not sure that they really look any different. But they're all three of them are just going to be on their own tab now. The formatting of the questions is changed, and they are now marked required as needed. And they'll have the little asterisks behind them if they're required. This does not apply to us, something with custom credits. The e-file page, if you click continue, you will save everything on the previous tab. On the e-file summary submission page, the first section allows the preparer and the quality reviewer a quick look at how each return is currently set to be electronically filed. And again, you can see the refund amounts too. The e-file submission page makes it easy to change the direct deposit information at the last minute. Which I'm not sure why you would want to do that, because chances are the taxpayer is already gone by this time. You have one last opportunity to print the return from this page. The return tags, there can be up to 12 listed, and they are now in standard column format. You have the ability to mark the return ready for review or complete, even on the submission page. TaxSlayer has a POC for the state. I'm not even sure who it is right now. I think it is somebody in PA1 because I personally gave up that position myself. We are in the process of forming a committee to help identify any issues that TaxSlayer has and to actually work on the PA manual for TaxSlayer. If anybody in the room right now or knows of any other counselor that wants to be a part of that process, please let me know, because the more people that are on that team, the less work each person has to do. And so that's always a good thing. Our POC to TaxSlayer is the only one that communicates with TaxSlayer support. There is a suggestion box where everybody can put into it, but if I need actual support, like you think there's a problem there, then it has to go through the POC. unless it is with a specific taxpayer. And then you can contact TaxSlayer yourself. All right, questions or comments?
I have a comment or a question from Steve Cohen.
Uh-huh.
Is the e-file page in Practice Lab? Do you know?
I do not know. That's a good question. I do not know, because I took my test, but I didn't go to the e-file page because we didn't need to e-file. I just needed a return. Sorry.
Then just for everybody's knowledge, there was a question on the site. Can we have more than one LC at a site? And Joe responded, no, we can only have one LC per site. And then Margaret M. Asked Joe a question. My TC has an active assignment, but could not get into the inventory system yesterday. Is there something going on with that? And Joe asked what district, and Trish Grubb said, Margaret, the TC is not automatically granted access to the UIS. Talk to me about it. And Margaret said, okay.
Okay.
So that, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Diane W asked, last year, if we clicked the complete instead of ready for review, it locked the return. And Steve Cohen asked another question, what if system goes down? Not sure what that's in reference to, Steve.
Who do we contact if if TaxSlayer goes down? Does Trish really want to get every one of these phone calls?
Trish, can you address that?
She did. She wrote, check the blog.
Oh, check the blog. Okay.
Because, like, if
Basically, Trish wants none of those phone calls because she's probably sitting there with the same situation. However, it's not a bad idea if you're trying 2 or 3 times, you've checked the blog, there's no information, because usually there's a lag of about 10 minutes or so with the blog when they're, hoping that it's not true to tell you. But if there's a system-wide shutdown, usually the blog will respond. What I see, and we'll talk about this more in the tech, is we did not have a lot of stress on the system last year, just by the virtue of the way we prepared remotely. I think that we're going to have more stress on the system this year. So there may be some more instances when TaxSlayer becomes unresponsive. Let's put it that way.
And Pat, I have one more comment from Gary Rauschenberger.
Yeah.
The complete box can be toggled to remove and unfreeze the accounts.
And that's been my experience too. So thank you, Gary, for posting that.
That's all I have.
Okay. All right. And I have one last presentation. And then before you leave, I also have an evaluation survey for each person to complete. The last presentation is called Best Practices. It is not that different from previous years at all, but I think that it's just information that is worth repeating again and again and again. Best practices. Can you see it, Frank?
Yes.
Okay. In the recruiting area, best practices. Most recruits come from personal invitation. We have to sign up at aarp.org. We cannot just have the person come to training. We need to assess their tax knowledge and their computer skills. And, in the last year and this year also, encourage any volunteers that are not going to work this year to certify, even if they don't plan to prepare returns. But already I know that some sites are going to struggle this year because there will be a number of 2020 returns that we are going to be asked to prepare, and they need at least 2 people that are certified for 2020 returns to be able to do that. In the identity theft area, what is identity theft? Someone using another's information, such as name, ID numbers, or credit card numbers without permission. Victims of identity theft are victimized mostly through no fault of their own, and the IRS does send notices to taxpayers identified as victims or even potential victims. And then they get that identity protection number, the PIN number, and they will need that whenever they're filing their 2021 tax return. They get a letter every year, I think for 3 years, from the IRS. So we need to be asking the taxpayer if he or she was contacted by the IRS regarding identity theft, and it is a question on page 1 of the intake interview form. If they skip the question, we need to make sure we ask it and complete it. Entering that number in TaxSlayer, it's in the basic information section. If the taxpayer received a PIN number but lost it, you can have them call the hotline. They will provide a new number, but I'm not sure they'll do it over the phone. If they can't get a new number, then you create a paper return and advise the taxpayer to follow whatever the hotline instructions are. If an e-file is rejected with indication that a tax return for a primary or secondary Social Security number has already been filed, give the taxpayer a paper copy of the return to mail and get that letter with the instructions, the identity theft affidavit form 14039 goes with it. This is 14039. Doesn't look fun. Recommendation: e-file every return that is prepared. From the taxpayer's perspective, it helps to prevent identity theft or prevent potential identity theft. It provides documentation of tax status. From the IRS perspective, it helps to lower the cost of any identity theft that happens. From the IARP perspective, it's a better tracking of activity, and it creates an IRS record of return if questions arise later. Additional resources on identity theft, you can get them on tab P in NTTC 4012. Any questions on identity theft?
Okay, I have a comment and actually 3 comments. Steve Cohen said it comes in the mail, never on the phone. And I was assuming the PIN number that he's referring to.
But you can call them. You can call them, and you're right. I don't think they'll give it over the phone, but you can call them and they'll give you instructions on how to deal with the situation that you're having.
Okay. Okay, then Trish made a statement. I think we should get IP pins for ourselves at this point. And then Sue commented, this year taxpayers can request an IRS pin. I think if they don't bring this in, it'll be a reject. Then Ruth Leon commented, I agree, Trish.
Okay,
It's very simple to do now for anyone. Okay, that's all. That's it.
So is that sort of like a multi-factor authentication thing?
I assume.
Okay, I understand. I had not thought about that before. It sounds like a good idea.
Pat, this is Ruth. I got mine last year, right as soon as they told us we were allowed to do it. I think it was near the beginning of, it was sometime in January, if I remember correctly. And I did have a little problem. It wouldn't accept my cell phone number. But what they did then was they sent me a paper form that I had to complete. I couldn't do it all on the website for whatever reason.
Okay.
But it was fairly simple to do. You just had to have I can't remember what all you had to have to verify your identity, but it wasn't that bad. And I do agree with Trish that everybody should do it.
I didn't know that was available to everybody. I thought it was just for people that were either having problems or potential problems.
Right, it just started last year.
Okay,
but
thanks.
You do have to remember then that you're going to get this letter and you have to have the PIN number to put it in. So
you have to keep
it.
Where do you go to get it?
Just go to the irs.gov and it'll have something there about getting a PIN.
Do you have to keep applying for it every year or every 2 or 3 years?
I'm not sure about that part of it.
Okay.
I believe the plan is that each year, each tax year, you will be issued a new PIN.
Right.
And it was actually kind of amazing. I could do mine easily and I just had to click on a link to get the number. But the way they've set it up, and one of the bizarrenesses of all these things is they want a cell phone with your name in the billing. Well, this isn't going to work for families.
Right.
So the second person in the family is probably going to end up requesting that the PIN or the ID be mailed to them. So just a tip.
Thanks. Appreciate it. I didn't know that. Okay. Anything else, Frank?
No.
Okay, thank you. What about confidentiality and security with best practices? No volunteers are allowed to use personal computers. It's just like, no, we all have Chromebooks now. All preparation is done in the presence of the taxpayer whenever possible. All materials are returned to the taxpayer at the conclusion of preparation. Only name and contact information should be retained. No exchange of taxpayer data with anyone by email, fax, or USPS mail. The exception is Form 8453, which gets mailed by the taxpayer. No taxpayer data should be retained on the computer or in the cloud after the end of the filing season, and we all know that AARP TaxAid reconfigures our computers annually, at least annually, to prevent any retentions. Password protection. Change when requested by the tax software, which I'm not really sure it's asking us to. It may be, but it doesn't seem like it did it all during tax season last year for me. Passwords should not be shared with anyone who does not have a need to know. I have the MRI scan of your brain. The right hemisphere is clogged with computer passwords. Isn't that the truth? The minimum length for passwords should be 10 characters, at least one uppercase, one number, and one special. Not a dictionary word, not someone's name, not a word related to taxes. Do not, under any circumstances, store your password near your computer, inside the case. It's a no-no. We don't do it. Chromebooks are equipped with antivirus software and a firewall. Wireless connections are the norm. No public Wi-Fi connections allowed. Use your Chromebook only. What about physical security of a computer? Store it in a secured locked location at home or at your site. Do not leave it unattended or visible like in a car. Guard taxpayer data from being viewed by non-volunteers. Any questions on computer security?
I have one comment from Trish, and it's apparently related to when your passwords are requested to be updated or changed.
Okay.
And it's 90 days.
February March. Well, that's why, okay, so if you didn't open your computer until almost February 1st or log into the lab, to production lab, then tax season will be over before 90 days. Okay. Training and instruction best practices. Use the portal. Use Google Shared Drive. Use irs.gov, Link and Learn, the workbook, self-study, small group, and TaxSlayer. I hope that all of you will at least explore self-study, small group type training this year. I know that I'm going to be doing a lot more of that in my own district. Apply the adult learning principles, and these are them. Practice immersion as much as possible. Practice at least 4 returns per volunteer required. Recommendation to complete them all. And at least 1 return must be completed through the state level. Homework is not a substitute for classroom instruction. If your district is providing instruction, then attend. Required instruction, volunteer standards of conduct, quality site requirements, intake interview, and quality review. LMS at the portal, the 3 required instructional pieces and tests for all volunteers. And then we also talked about the reimbursement piece. And we talked about the local coordinator instruction. Refer to the NTTC training handbook. Whoa, there's a lot too many O's in there, sorry. It's at the portal. I don't know if these page numbers are right or not. Oh no, I know those page numbers aren't right. The elements of minimal essential knowledge. I think I put those page numbers in a different presentation last week. Certify all volunteers as a CF so that they can get a login at the portal, and that's wrong now too. Even if their status is changed to candidate, they should be able to get a login at the portal. Discourage volunteers from creating a ticket at the portal unless it's absolutely necessary, and if it is necessary, they must copy the volunteer who approves the creation of the ticket. Otherwise, the people on NTTC get swamped. All other avenues should be explored first. Follow the hierarchy of asking for help. Any questions on that? On training and instruction questions?
Nothing yet.
Okay, that's all right. All right, best practices in preparation. Follow the guidance of the service models. Intake, interview, by a preparer and a reviewer, quality review. Remind the taxpayer that the data on the forms is their responsibility. The tools available. They're all bookmarked on Chromebook or they're available on the Google Shared Drive. You know what your go-to tool is. You know where the Bogart tools are. You know where you can go to get state tax help, DFO2 and DFO3. I believe these are still going to be in print this year. And the PA user manual for TaxSlayer will be available hopefully by the start of tax season. State tax assistance program is very similar to prior years. If you want information on this, you can find it at the portal. Saying no. What situations require us to turn a taxpayer away? Whoops. Put your answers in chat. What situations require us to turn a taxpayer away? Nice, thank you. Those are all good answers. I was able to see them in the chat myself. All right, anybody have any questions, comments on training, instruction, or preparation? Okay, I don't have anything more to share with you except that I am going to put a link in the chat box now. When you click on the link, it should take you to an evaluation form that I prepared using Google Forms. And please answer the questions and then just submit it, and I will get information that you're sharing and see what the group is saying about the instruction that you received this year. And remember, the last question on there is, how else can I help you? So please, if there's anything more that I can do to help you, please write it in there and I will set up some mini trainings for us. Well, it didn't go. Did it go? All right, there's the link that you can click on to complete your survey. Thank you very much for your time today. After you complete your survey, you're done.
Could you put the link up again?
Is it there?
It was there for a second.
It's still there.
It's still there.
Same link.
Oh, there.
Just scroll
Okay.
down to the bottom of your chat and I think you'll see it.
Pat, I'd just like to say thank you for all the work that you've done.
You're welcome.
You know you wanted to retire from your job and start collecting your pension from it. But I definitely, I'm sure everybody else here also appreciates everything you've done for us.
Sure.
Well stated.
Frank, do you want to remind the DCs about the meeting this afternoon?
Yes, I do. And I see Trish also put a comment in it. It's a WebEx meeting. It starts at 1 o'clock.